three works in the exhibition are called User Group Disco, Choir and West Hinder. The exhibition space is divided into three areas, so that there is an area or a chamber, if you like, for experiencing each work. And each work relies upon a spatial principle. The idea of a location is the basis in each work for the drama, for the action which will ensue. So User Group Disco opens in a hall of sculptures. The choir opens by describing the area of a church, which is called the choir, the architectural area of the church. And West Hinder starts, as we find out just a few moments into the film, at a location on the bottom of the sea. So each piece kind of insists upon the location almost as a start of the drama. I suppose the premise of the video is it thinks about institutions and architectures, but you don't ever see an architecture. You don't see the walls of a museum, you don't see the interior of a museum. User Group Disco is all in a blackout set, so what you see is objects, the objects that might furnish such an institution, the objects that might constitute a collection of art, or at least that's the proposition of the video. And it's through these objects and it's through the insistence of the narrator that you have the idea of an architecture. I suppose the category of objects that appears in that film is of excess or surplus or redundancy. And the key object is a record, a phonographic record. In a way, it's one of the most important objects of the 20th century and now one of the most redundant objects. The idea for West Hinder, I mean, my interest in the real event, which was a cargo ship crossing the channel between the British Isles and Europe, which sank, taking with it a cargo of almost 3,000 luxury cars. The premise of the film is to kind of relate the experience of the interior of the car, the way the car constructs sort of environment, the way it furnishes all of your needs, the way it talks to you, the way it entertains you, the way it interprets your commands, with this kind of immersive location at the bottom of the sea. The latent potential of that as the location for this extraordinary potential of these cars. Of course, literally what happened to them there is they corroded and they degraded. But the premise of my film was that in a sense, their symbolic value, their cultural value, that these things would also be altered by their immersion. So the relationship was really, I suppose I didn't think of it as being that fantastical, what they do or what they express. It seems like a parody of what we kind of think or know about cars anyway, or how they seem to work. Choir's a rather different piece to the other two works. It takes a single idea, the idea of a choir or an assembly, and then that's worked in a different way with each section of the film. The first part deals with ecclesiastical architecture, so the architecture of churches. But the origin of the word choir is related not strictly to architecture, but to the principle of assembly, to the principle of a chorus of people coming together. So the second part deals with this idea of multiple voices, which is maybe what people would more immediately associate with the word choir. Well, it draws on internet archives of musical performance and convenes a single dance from many, many dances, from many, many gestures. And the third part deals with a social historical event, a fire in a Woolworths store in 1979. Then the particular kind of context for that idea being explored in the idea of a choir really came through the association of three images. An image of a woman waving her hand before escaping from the Woolworths fire, a gesture through the window, which I connected to these very enigmatic dance gestures on this footage of performance, and then associated with many other hand gestures, and also these hand gestures that were found in the sculptures on the floor of the choir. So this kind of link between these three gestures became the point of assembly, how I could bring these three very different elements together. So the authority of the museum is one of the things that's expressed in User Group Disco. The idea of the car, and particularly its construction of masculine power, and how that is constructed through its manufacture but also through its retail, the language that accompanies that, is expressed in West Hinder. something like the arcane language that's used to describe the ecclesiastical architecture of the choir, and how such language sustains an institution. These things are present in the work. They're part of the work's language, but they're also satirized.